They're coming tantalisingly close. I've got six. I knew it was only a matter of time. Well, we found our first otter, and I'm very excited at the prospect. So the guy in the hat is here. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hello and welcome back to the channel. So a slightly different video than normal today. We're off on an adventure. We're off on a summer Scottish tour. So it's guaranteed to throw it down the whole time we're away. And so what I thought I would do, rather than bring you lots of little videos of the places that we've been to, I'd record it as a travel vlog. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight of what it's like to come along on a journey like this and see all the different places that we go to. So we've set off today. Our first stop is probably going to be around the Dumfries area, possibly not, because it's not that far away. The beauty of having a motorhome is that we can chop and change our plans. So we're possibly going to stay in Dumfries, but we might carry on all the way up towards Loch Lomond and stay in the Loch Lomond area. Then we're going across onto the Isle of Skye, and we've got a ferry from Mull to get across onto the Isle of Skye. We're really only passing through Skye. We've done Skye before, we did that a couple of years ago, and to be honest with you, during August it is exceptionally busy on Skye, so we're probably just going to pass through there, taking some of the sights as we go, and I'll probably show you a little bit of what Skye has to offer. But the real reason for passing through Skye is that we're on our way to Lewis and Harris. Never been to Lewis and Harris before. It's an island that I definitely want to visit. And I'm meeting up with a guy called Rob Howard, who's a wildlife guide on Harris, and he's going to show us around and hopefully get us some up close and personal shots with eagles and otters and whatever Lewis and Harris has to offer. So that should be absolutely fantastic. We're coming off Lewis and Harris, then we're going across to Channery Point over on the east coast. Got a couple of days there. I just enjoy the opportunity to try and get photographs of dolphins. More than anything, just to see them. It's an incredible experience, and if you've not seen Channery Point, it's definitely worth a visit. So we're going to go across to Channery Point, got a couple of days there at Fortrose, and then we're going to travel south, and it wouldn't be a Scottish trip if we didn't visit the Isle of Mull. So we're going to go to the Isle of Mull. We've got a fair few days on the Isle of Mull, so we'll spend some time on the Isle of Mull. Definitely going to photograph some otters on the Isle of Mull, and also I've booked Mull charters. I never fail to book Mull charters when I go to Mull. I just think it's a fabulous experience, and although I must have a million photographs of white-tailed eagles diving in to catch fish, it's just something that I always never want to miss out on when I go, so I've booked that. Then we come off the Isle of Mull and we travel south, and then we're onto the Isle of Arran. Again, an island that I've not been to before. We've got no plans really for Arran. It's going to be a case of just having a look and seeing what we can find. So we've just got a bit of a slog to get up into Scotland. So come along for the journey and see what I see. So we've arrived at our first location. We're in Dumfries and Galloway, and we're making the most of what is called, I think it's called Park for Night, and it's the Forestry Commission. And the Forestry Commission have a series of car parks, and it's £7 to stay overnight in these car parks. Some of them have facilities, so this one looks like it's got fresh water and it's got some toilets. I suspect the toilets will probably be locked in the evening to deter the non-self-contained campers, but we're self-contained, that's what it's open to, and it does mean that you can come on and you can use the site, and for £7, that's not a bad amount of money. And An absolutely beautiful location. Chance of red squirrels here, so I might even get my camera out. I think I'm just going to pop the drone up and you can see how beautiful this location really is. Good morning. We had a really good night. Nice and peaceful, really quiet in that Forestry Scotland car park. We had no disturbances at all, and they had toilets at 24-hour open, so it meant that we didn't have to use the toilet in the van, which is always a plus because it's muggins here that has to empty it. And only 15 minutes down the road we've got an RSPB reserve, and those of you who have been following the channel for a long time know that I cannot resist visiting an RSPB reserve. No matter how big or how small they are, I always like to just go and show my face. So we're at RSPB, I want to say Mearshead, and it's from first glance it's a really kind of mixed, kind of a diverse area. It's got freshwater pools, it's got a beach, so you've got saltwater pools, you've got open farmland, it looks like it's got reed beds. So I would imagine there's a whole host of different animals, different bird life that you could see. However, yesterday was beautiful sunshine, and it was really calm. Today, I don't know whether you can hear it, but you probably see it with the trees nearly blowing over. We have got a hell of a hoolie being blown today, and I know that very strong winds always affect bird life. I think you struggle to see birds when it's really windy. So we'll see what we'll see. We'll come along for a journey and see what I see. It is windy. Now I'm approaching the first hide. There are two hides here. One that's just 400 metres down this way, and one that's 1 kilometre to my right. So we've got the breathtaking hide. I don't know if I've said that right, probably not. And then we've got the Mida hide. So I'm going to have a little mooch up to the breathtaking hide. I'm getting wet now. I knew I should have put my coat on. It's only 400 metres to the hide, and then I'll probably just shelter in there. I have a feeling that I'm not going to see much, but you never know, and that's the beauty of RSPB reserves. You just never know what you might see. So fingers crossed we'll get to this hide and it'll be just wonderful. Not a great deal in that hide. There was a little scrape in front of the hide, but it had no waders on it or anything like that. There was a male and female ringneck pheasant, and that's about it really. So I'm going to wander back, mooch down to the second hide, have a quick look at that, and then probably back to the van. This was always just a little stop off in the morning. I was hoping to get on to Scottish wildlife hides today, and I just contacted Alan on spec just to see if there was anything available. And it's one of the things I should have known better. You need to pre-book things like that. Even though Scottish wildlife hides have multiple hides, lots of groups visit them, and so there is a group up of 12 people today, so they'll be monopolising all the hides. And rightly so, they've probably booked it 12 months in advance rather than the night before. However, I always have an ace up my sleeve when I come to the Dumfries area, and that's Bellymac Farm. So I will be visiting Bellymac Farm this afternoon. I have made a video of there in the past, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, keep tuned. It's an absolute little gem. We've arrived at Bellymac Farm, and already the red kites are circling above our heads. There's a good hour yet before the feeding starts. It's at 2 p.m. I thought it was at 1 p.m, so I had a bit of a mad rush to get here, when actually it's probably not going to start feeding until 2 p.m. Anyway, that does not matter because it does mean that I've got the time to be able to get myself set up, get myself in a really good position, and hopefully get some fantastic shots of the red kites as they're coming in. Now it's very windy, but I don't think that bother the kites whatsoever. If anything, it might slow them down a little bit because they're going to have to be a fight in the wind as they're coming in to grab the food that's put out for them. The light is probably, I think, not far off optimal for midday. We've got overcast clouds, which is creating a nice diffused light, but it's bright. You can see I'm still squinting. So even though we've not got direct sunshine, which is hellishly difficult to photograph in, I think this is going to be really quite favourable for photographing the red kites. It's a fantastic location, this. I know I've done videos from Gigrin in the past, and Gigrin itself, you know, it's an incredible location, but this place is a little gem of a place. It's nowhere near as expensive as Gigrin, and every bit as good. And what's great about it is, although you get, you know, similar numbers of red kites, there's hardly ever anyone here. So you do get the place pretty much to yourself. So yeah, come along for the journey and see what I see. So we're all set up, ready to go. You'll notice I've popped the old beanie on because despite it being in the middle of August, it is still a little bit chilly and that wind has got a definite bite to it. So I'll be shooting today on the tripod. I prefer to shoot on the tripod when I'm shooting birds in flight. It just takes all the weight out my arms. It means I can focus on the bird, I can focus on my settings, and I can focus on everything, that creative side that I need to focus on, rather than trying to keep the camera held up high. I'm using the Z9 with the 400 2.8. I'm predominantly going to be shooting today at 400mm. The feeding station is probably about, I would say, probably about 50 metres away, if that, maybe not even 50 metres away. So 400mm is going to be ample for a focal length that I'm going to be using. I don't think I'm going to need to engage the teleconverter at all. I will, as much as possible, be shooting wide open. Occasionally I'm going to adjust that aperture down to probably about 5.6 to ensure that I get the full wingtip to wingtip depth of field. And then it's all about shutter speed. Now I've got plenty of light at the moment and it's interchangeable, the light, because the cloud cover, we're getting moments of really, really bright skies and then moments of quite diffused lighting. And so my shutter speed's going to be predominantly above 5,000th of a second. So a really, really fast shutter speed. And you know, you're probably thinking that is ridiculously fast, but actually when the red kites are diving, and that's the shot you want as they invert and they dive down, they are traveling at serious speeds. And so to freeze the action and get a really, really crisp, clean shot, I think 5,000th of a second is probably a good starting point, and then I can adjust around that. My ISO is going to be on auto, so I'm going to let the camera make those decisions, and then I'll just be changing my metering mode depending on what's in front of me. Now what we've got here in front of us is we've got a hilly landscape in front of us, which means that you can get shots where you've not got the sky behind the kite, or you can get them with the sky behind it. So it's completely up to you. Because today is quite overcast and the sky is predominantly white, I will be, for the majority of it, shooting them against the green background, because I don't particularly like them against that white sky. It's certainly getting busy now. There's probably upwards of 30 people here to see the red kites, and we are at nearly 10 to, so 10 minutes to go, and then the excitement should begin. So the guy in the hat is here, he's ready to put the feed out, and already the red kites are jockeying for position. There's a definite pecking order that exists amongst red kites, and it's the more mature senior birds that will dive in first, and then the lesser immature birds that will come in and pick up all the scraps. And they're jockeying for that pecking order right now, so you'll see them sparring in air, and occasionally you'll get them interacting where they lock talons as they come close to one another. Fabulous if you can capture it. Fingers crossed I might be able to, but the meat's going out, so here we go. So just like always, what you tend to find with the red kites is that they come in waves. They don't just one go down and then another one go down. They build and build and build in numbers, and then they seem to call out, and then they come down, and it's like a wave, and you can hear them as they come tumbling down to the grass, snatching pieces of meat. And what some of the kites will do is they won't actually go down to the ground. They will hover just above, and they'll look for which kites pick up a piece of meat, and then they'll try and mob them. And then you get those lovely interactions in the air as you get those aerial dogfights between the two birds, which is just incredible to see. What I would say is that initially the meat that was put out was right against the fence line here, and it's really close. In many ways, far too close for the 400mm lens, so tracking them has been really difficult. The other thing is the wind is blowing into my face. Now, red kites won't dive with wind on their back. They dive with the wind in their faces, and they use the wind to push up off as they push their tail feathers down. So you're always going to get the kites diving away from you if the wind is blowing into your face. Now, if you can move around and find a different spot where the wind is coming off your back, you've got more chance of getting them as they're coming in to dive for the meat. Unfortunately, at locations like this, you don't have that luxury. You're in a set location, so you've got to make the best of what you've got. There is a second location with meat, and that is a feeding table, and they have been taking it from there as well. And that's just that little bit further out that gives me that optimal distance for the 400mm. But I would say you could probably achieve shots here with a 70 to 200, probably with a kit lens, to be honest with you. You know, they do come incredibly close. And one of the things that you've got to be able to compete with is the speed at which they dive. It is just blisteringly fast. So you've got to make sure you've got a fast shutter speed. And then that tip that I keep referring to time and time again is it can be very easy to become overwhelmed by the birds. So what's a far better approach is that you get one bird, you track it, and then wait for that bird to dive, and resist that temptation to flip onto a different subject when you think that one's going to dive, because invariably that's how you'll miss the shot. And I'm most successful when I'm just tracking a single bird and waiting for that bird to dive. Now, the last time I came here, what tends to happen is after about an hour of them being fed, the numbers dwindled and the number of people dwindled on the deck in here, and actually the birds became a little bit more confident and were a bit more regular in the dives, and so it's probably worth hanging on. We'll see if that happens this time. So they pushed right off, right into the back field, right out the kind of the area of the farm, and now they're just building in numbers and coming back and building until they get that confidence to be able to dive. And what you tend to find is exactly as I described would happen is the majority of people now have moved off, which has meant that with less noise on the veranda, the birds will become more confident and get much more close as they're diving. So it's always worth hanging on, and you know, sometimes just watch that initial phase of them diving, and then come back and do your photography on the second or third waves as it thins out in numbers. So I went from a situation where there was probably 30-40 people stood on the veranda, and now there's 2 of us stood there, and there's not as much meat left, which means the birds are going to be a little bit more selective and they're not going to come in these huge big waves. And I think that sometimes affords you the chance of getting some really, really good shots. Now, the problem we've got today is the wind direction. As I've said previously, the birds are diving away from us, they're not coming towards us, which means that we're not getting any of those shots with the talons outstretched coming towards you, which is a real shame. But we've not been short of opportunities. You know, the birds have come in thick and fast, and there's been well over 100 red kites circling and diving over this field. You know, for £7, that is absolutely first class. There is a huge bank of rain on its way, and I reckon it's going to be about 5 minutes before it hits us, and then that's probably going to be the end of it, I think, because I don't think there's going to be much opportunity once this bank of rain has passed through. So as predicted, the rain came tumbling in and the session came to a very, very abrupt finish, with me dashing back to the van in a failed attempt to stay dry. So as we pick up the journey across the Sky Bridge, I'll bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, and if you're not yet subscribed, consider doing so. Every subscriber makes a massive difference to the channel and I really appreciate it. If you want to show that little bit of extra support, we've got a Buy Me a Coffee webpage. The link will be at the bottom of the screen now. A massive thank you to everybody who's bought a coffee. In the next video, we visit Lewis and Harris and have some unbelievable encounters with both whitetail and golden eagles. So stay tuned for that one. Until next time, ta-ra!